Today I'm making floating shelves with built-in acrylic lighting. Along the way I will show you ways to go about this without needing a ton of tools and expensive equipment. I'll go over the brackets, hardware, and different channel options for the lighting, plus an easy wiring setup to keep this project quick and painless. Totally cool if you don't have access to a 3D printer or are unfamiliar with soldering wires. I have you covered. For the shelves, I'm using 1/2-inch cast acrylic. Later in the video, I'll cover different ways to source, cut, and finish the acrylic to get that perfect look. I picked up a large 4x8 sheet of acrylic from my local supplier to cut down. I went this route so I could offer pre-cut shelves with a clean finish and a smooth, rounded radius for anyone who wants to skip the hassle of cutting it themselves. Plus, it helps to support the channel. Cutting acrylic may seem intimidating, but it's actually pretty straightforward if you follow a few key steps. First, use a sharp carbide blade with a high tooth count, just not too high. I'll explain later. This helps with reducing chips and heat buildup. Second, maintain a steady pace, slow but not too slow, and with even pressure. You can use a table saw, track saw, or even a circular saw like I'm using with a makeshift guide or board. I'm using a 60 tooth blade for this 1/2-inch material, but you can get by with anything within that range really. I'll be using my CNC cutting out a batch of these to get that rectangular shape with a rounded radius. Doing it this way will leave a better surface finish, but it will still need to be sanded on the sides for that perfect glow later on. You can find acrylic pretty much anywhere. Amazon has standardized sheets you can cut down, but quality varies between brands, and shipping can cause warpage. The big box stores have acrylic, but mainly only thinner material and extruded. Pro tip, to avoid headaches, make sure to get cast acrylic. It's easier to cut and less prone to warping. In addition to standardized sizes, some brands offer custom cutting, which is another alternative, though quite expensive. Either way, I'll put links below for a few services that I have found. But hey, shameless plug, if you want to skip the cutting altogether, mine come pre-cut with a clean, accurate shape and a smooth, rounded profile. And the packaging will be way better, I promise. Plus the channel. But keep in mind, whatever you choose, you'll still have to finish the sides to get that nice glow. The CNC does a good job, but you'll definitely need to sand the edges, and possibly the top if you want a nice frosted look. Sanding the edges help create a more uniform glow and make the edge finish appear silky smooth. In testing, I found that 220 grit gave me the best result with minimal effort. Using an orbital sander, I made quick work of the edges. But you can absolutely do this by hand. Just grab some sandpaper from the hardware store and work in circular motions on the edges. It won't take long at all. The jury is still out on frosted versus clear. In the end, you will see both. Let me know what you prefer for your shelf. While you're at it, make sure to subscribe. I have a crazy over-engineered coffee table project coming soon. After all of these are glued up, I will work on the electronics next. But for a simple project like this, or more complex projects that involve electro or mechanical parts, my sponsor JLC PCB has got you covered. They provide easily, affordable, and reliable PCB and PCBA solutions, empowering electronic engineers to develop projects efficiently. In addition to that, they have 3D printing, CNC machining, and mechatronic parts to get your project on the right track. Speaking of tracks, they definitely have them. and their extensive catalog of parts. Ordering parts is easy with their centralized checkout process of all aspects of your design. So don't forget to check the description box below for coupons and more information. Thank you JLC for sponsoring this video. And now onto the fun part. For the LEDs, I'm going with a LED type called COB, which is C-O-B. It gives a nice uniform glow as opposed to standard addressable lighting, and you'll see why in a bit. I had first intended to solder the wires together, but found these connectors for attaching the LEDs and extension wires easily. Again, everything I mention will be down in the description link for you. As for the connectors, it's pretty straightforward when you see it. You'll want to do red to the 12 volt, green to the DI/DO, and white to the ground pins. Once I get everything hooked up and organized, I measure out some excess cable. In my case, I'm making 2 shelves, so I'm giving myself a bit extra wire just for mistakes and to connect the 2 shelves later on. Now, directionality with these kinds of lighting, mainly addressable lighting, have arrows pointing to the direction of the signal coming in. You'll just want to be aware of those arrows and make your wiring following the arrows away from the controller. Here's an overview of the connections, and on the bottom right side is where your controller would be. As promised, for those of you without a 3D printer, you can use this cable channel that I purchased on Amazon, discarding half the channel and then inserting the LEDs in and tucking the wires on the top side. To be honest, this would have worked better than the 3D printed channel I made. So in the future, I will definitely be going with that. These LEDs need 12 volt, so I bought a power supply with a simple screw terminal that we'll use to connect the controller. The controller looks complicated, but is pretty straightforward. Those small brackets under the wording separate the parts of the controller. You'll see a V- and a V+. That basically just means the power coming in. The V- will be for the white wire and the V+ for the red wire. After that, then you'll see a group of 3 on the far left side and another 3 to the right of that. Those are for independent light strips, but we'll only be using the first 3. And as for the 2 on the far right, those are for actual buttons, which would be cool to do in the future for sure. Now I'll just give it a test with one of the frosted shelves I made. I think I'm still partial to the clear, but I definitely would like to know your opinion. The best thing about this controller is it runs on an open source program that works on your phone, so you can change the color of your lighting super easy. Like we had mentioned previously, here's an example of using a regular light strip versus a COB light strip. You can see each individual LED through the acrylic, and it will be more apparent with clear acrylic. Here's just a side-by-side for your reference. Now we're coming down to the home stretch. I just measured up from the baseboard to the height I want my first shelf. I did that in 2 spots and then grabbed a straight object and put a level on it to dial in to get a truly level surface. First, I found the center of the wall where I wanted the shelf and marked it. From there, I measured outward to determine the mounting points for the brackets. In my case, and probably yours, I just chose to put the inner mounting hole 5.5 inches from the center. You'll see what I mean in just a minute. Now the shelf brackets I will link have drywall anchors that support a light load, maybe 10 to 15 pounds. You will need to drill a 1/4-inch hole in the drywall to accept the anchor, but it will not be needed, however, if your shelf is situated where you can mount it to a stud. If you have items that are larger, you may want to upgrade the drywall anchor and then just use those to mount the bracket. I do have an extra shelf I no longer need with the free brackets. If you're interested, reply below to my pinned comment where you would put the shelf or any things you would put on it. I will randomly select a commenter to send a shelf. More details below, and if you like this content, consider subscribing. I figured the shelf would look a little nicer if I added some 3D printed covers to slip onto the brackets, but if you do not have a 3D printer, again, I have a workaround. You can use these small U-channel brackets I have linked below to secure the acrylic shelves with standard screws. That being said, you may want to drill a pilot hole in the acrylic shelf before you fix the bracket to the acrylic. After these are all printed up, I just slip them on and then get ready to attach the LED channels with some VHB adhesive. Remembering to keep the LED direction and the proper orientation, mount the channel and situate it in the middle where the shelf brackets are. Now to connect the upper shelf to the lower shelf, as well as any additional extension you need to your wiring, using the same connection style as before, you just need to use these 3-pin push connectors to hook up all the wires. I mentioned these cable covers for a workaround to the 3D printed LED channels. We will use these to tidy up the wires between the shelves and going down towards the control box. I added another wire extension below the bottom shelf and left the 3-wire spool on for last minute adjustments on where I want the controller to sit. After that, I 3D printed a cover for the controller and power inlet, which I will have on my Patreon for free along with all the other 3D printed parts. The controller comes with instructions for hooking up to your local network so you can access the LED controller from your phone and your desktop. I found these instructions good enough, but if you would like me to go into depth more about onboarding, I will definitely do that. Most importantly, you will need to go into the LED preference pages in the settings and change a few settings for your strip light to work correctly, at least for the combination of strip lights I purchased and length. I am really torn between the clear and frosted look, not sure which one looks better. Some improvements for the shelf would be going with the pre-bought channel instead of the 3D printed brackets I used. I think it would have fit and looked much better. Also, finishing the bracket covers with some filler primer and paint would have definitely gone a long way. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and enjoy the low light shots with full color.